nobody has power over what I choose I'm able to do. And when I'm committed, it's going to happen because it's the character that I've developed that if you say you want to go hang a building off the side of a mountain, crazier things have been done. And so it's the audacity and the courage to believe whatever I can imagine, I can do.
Guys, help me welcome Erin and Sarit Attwood. What is going on? How are you doing? Oh my gosh, I was so excited to see you guys.
It's great to be here.
Oh,
It's actually, okay, so we were walking around here before we started and I was just like, I always have things to say. Can I swear?
Yeah.
I always have shit
you, girl.
I always have shit to say.
Yeah.
And as we were walking around here, I was like, I don't know what to say. So I'm thrilled.
I'm super excited to be here. And
As you say that, super chill, kind of kick back.
I save it.
You say that.
I save it.
I'm so excited.
I'm so glad. You know, it's funny. One of our mutual friends, Amberly, connected us, and it's funny. I don't know if you. I think we talked about this a little bit last night over dinner, but you know, I hopped on the Zoom call with you guys as like a discovery call, like, you know, how can I be of service, you know, and kind of thing, you know, just because, well, I don't know if you have this happen, but sometimes your best friends connect you to some of the most amazing people, but they don't tell you why. So they just send you an email and say, hey, here's so-and-so, you should meet so-and-so. They're amazing. You're amazing. Meet. I'm like, okay. Is there a purpose? And then I got on the call and I was like, instantaneous, like, we have known each other forever, somehow, some way. I don't know how to explain it fully. But the vibe was just like, all right, yeah, we're meant to do some cool stuff together somehow, some way. And yeah, and then we started just chit-chatting back and forth about all the really cool stuff you guys are working on. Oh my gosh. You have been like transformation agents, like, I don't know for how long. So
Can I change my title? I am not a coach. I am a transformation agent.
you absolutely are. You absolutely are. Yeah. The reality is y'all's audience, their feedback on you guys is tremendous. And
Yes, sorry.
Yes, strong. Did you go look?
yeah, of course I did.
Okay.
You got to poke around a little bit, get to know everybody, you know.
They're the most heart-centered, like badass.
Yeah.
So
Takes one to know one, I think.
fair enough. When we were at dinner last night.
Yeah.
And I told you, you were talking about how, like, why do we need to connect? Like, but I trust this person.
Yeah.
And if you're connecting me with somebody, then there's probably a reason for it. I'm going to go with it.
For sure.
And we looked up, we're like, okay, who is this guy? We all do it, right? We're like, let me see the website. Let me go to Instagram. Let me just find everything. And both of us were just like racking our brains. We've seen him. Like we've met him. We know him from somewhere, an event, from somebody, one of our mutual friends. And I don't think, other than Amberly, who connected us, that there was, I said it was in a past life, but you know, it is that connection. And when you have something, when you have that feeling, you just run with it and you're like, I don't know what this could be. I don't know what will come from this, but I'm going to roll with it.
You know what I realized I did last night? And that's how I know I'm really comfortable with someone.
Okay.
So last night we went out to sushi, right? And we got this like massive sushi boat because we all can just eat.
Now you really just made Brian jealous. We had a sushi boat.
It was a boat. They were like, you got 8 rolls. They were like, you got 8 rolls, which means I was like, we got 8 on the
eight plus appetizers, as a matter of fact.
True. If you got 8 rolls, which means we can put it in the boat.
So one of the rolls that we got, you know, like at first I'm like, oh, maybe it's like anchovies or like, you know, pan-seared tuna, which I have nothing against beef. However, we literally just celebrated a close friend's birthday. And have you ever been to like one of the Brazilian places?
Yeah.
Brazilian steakhouse.
And
we flipped a little card over now.
Yeah. And, you know, I just felt like beefed out. Let's just call it this way. So at first I was like, okay, this is pan-seared tuna. And then as I got close, I'm like, I think that's beef. And then I asked him, like, is this beef? And they're like, yeah, it's beef. I know that I'm really close to someone when I'm like, hey, do you want to have this piece? Like, I'm like, we're homies like that because it's like, I would say it's a term of endearment, like from where I come from, right? Because like meal sharing is a lot more traditional than I would say it is in America. Like in America, there's like, it's cleaner, and like more proper. Where I come from, it's like, oh yeah, my chopsticks already touched it. But it's totally cool, like, you know, if we share. So
you got the cootie shot though, XX ... Now you got the cootie shot. You're good.
Yeah. So I was like, I thought about it last night. I'm like, wow. I completely just asked him if he wanted my sushi that I already picked up.
You know, what's really strange is I must have felt just as comfortable because, like, oh no, you go ahead and eat it. We went back to conversation. We didn't even think about it. Like it was super chill.
Yeah.
Well, look, you know, you guys are doing some incredible work. Really are transforming a lot of lives from the inside out. One of the things that I was literally pondering today as I was kind of like thinking through, like, I could go in so many different directions. They're so qualified. They've been through so much. They've done a lot of different things. They've helped a lot of different people. They've built a massive brand, a massive business. What do I do next? Like, where can we go with this? And then you started sharing we started sharing stories of basically specific adversities or specific life defining moments that basically set us on the trajectory of changing everything about who we were becoming. You know, some would say that we were not only changing who we were becoming, we were already in the process of becoming that. It was just part of the phase, right? And so I had this slogan that popped in my head, and hopefully you guys will vibe with this because I feel like we can go really far, really deep, and help a lot of people with it, which is the cost of the transformation.
Love that.
The sheer cost of the transformation.
Love that.
You guys have, not only have we been through major challenges, right, as part of our own transformation, but one of the things that I've seen with people, and we talked about this a little bit over dinner, is I see people who are not authentically themselves. And I don't know if it's because they're not searching for it or if it's more like they don't know how to even do it or like how to kind of do that, you know? So I'm curious. I want to jump straight into how the cost of transformation plays into like how we become that in which we were created to be.
I think of the cost of transformation in two completely opposite ways. And there's two sides to every coin. So you have the cost of transformation. There is the cost of transforming yourself. Put in the work, you grit and grind it out. You create discipline. You do the things you don't want to do because you like the results. You've got to, avoid temptations or resist temptations. You know, you've got to manage your own emotions when people doubt you. You know, that the cost of getting to the top of the mountain. And then there's the cost of not. So what is it costing you to not evolve as the best version you possibly can in this lifetime? What is it costing you in your feelings when you sit on the couch and smash a bag of Cheetos and then you got orange fingers and you just watched like an entire series of episodes of a show that makes no change in your life? And I say this because I've done it, not to like be rude to anybody, but you know, there is a cost, because then for myself, I can speak personally, is just you go to bed and then you wake up the next morning feeling like, what am I doing? Why am I here? What is all this for? And then it's a sort of like depression. And then you get anxious because you don't know what you're just going through the motions because you're not actively pursuing the best version of you that exists or could potentially exist. So I see two costs.
No, absolutely. You know, and piggyback off that a little bit, I was just having one of the things I also kind of figured out is sometimes you're climbing the mountain, right? Because you think you're chasing X, Y, and Z. And then you realize you're on the wrong damn mountain.
Oh my gosh.
But do you think you're still on that mountain on purpose?
I don't know. We talked about that last night.
Yeah.
One of the things I love about you is the fact that you think that everything is designed to come together to create the thing. You know, so I'd love to hear your thoughts. Like let's jump in there for a second.
Okay.
All right. So here's the concept I just laid out was everybody's fighting or climbing whatever mountain. And then they realize they're on the wrong mountain. Okay. Now, I would say that that's a defining moment where you shift and begin maybe working towards the other mountain, right? How would you put it?
Exactly that. You know, something that I always say, and this is from my own life experience, is, you know, sometimes in life you have to get lost in order to get found. And, you know, for me, that part of transformation happened to me so many times because, for example, I was not born in the US, right? And when I came to this country, I, you know, took a chance of being completely lost. Like nobody knew who I was. I didn't know anybody. Literally, like, think about build yourself from zero. You have no connections, nothing to your name. You haven't built anything. However, when you step into that place, you're able to truly like see what your true colors are. Like, what are you really made of? Because it's so raw and it's so vulnerable, and you have to get resourceful and you have to figure it out some way, because it's not easy, right? And how you find your own footing, I think, determines like, what are you thinking about? What do you really want? Like, what means something to you, right? So I think to take the chance of, let me get on the wrong mountain so I can get on the right mountain, and this is what we tell our clients as well. I'm like, knowing what doesn't work or knowing what you don't want is literally half the battle. That's how I found out my purpose, because I was so clear on what I didn't want. So it's like, okay, like when you set a boundary, it's like you have a lane on the right and a lane on the left. And when you're like, I know what I don't want, you're like, okay, so now at least I have a road. So, all I got to do is just kind of like, even if I drive crooked, I can still figure it out, so I think that being on the wrong mountain is a gateway to getting to the right mountain.
It's funny, as you guys were telling some of the stories and whatnot of how you guys connected and met and stuff like that. It was interesting to hear the different perspectives and where you guys were both individually at before you met each other. And there was an intangible beauty to it, because when you were sharing your part of the story, Sarit, one of the things that I loved about it was like, hey, I was going with the flow. I had this going on. This was going on. I didn't know how this was going to make sense and how this is going to make sense. And then lo and behold, I end up at this place, and all of a sudden I meet Erin, and like everything changed, right? That kind of thing. So, there's so many of those moments that, I know when I was sharing one of my stories with you guys, I feel like there's a common thread of letting go and surrendering, right? At the core of every transformation is the moment of surrender, right? You're surrendering to letting go, if you will, of what is, so you can obtain what is supposed to be or what could be. Right? I'm curious, what are you thinking, Erin?
So before you started talking about sometimes you have to get lost to get found, I was literally in my mind, I was like, sometimes you have to climb high enough so you can see a different view. Because you don't know you're on the run. Like, you start climbing because you're like, oh yeah, this is the way to go. I don't think anybody deliberately is like, oh, I know this place is going to mess me up, so I'm going to go that way. We think this is where I need to be. And I truly believe everything happens like on purpose. There is a purpose. And I also believe that we are responsible for finding that purpose or creating it. So whatever that may be, quick story, we were during, it was 2021, and Sarit's brother was going to get married, and her whole family's in Israel. And, we are going back and forth. Are we going to go to the wedding? What are the restrictions? It's, different country. What are their restrictions? What tests do have to be done? What paperwork needs to be filled out? How do we dot all the I's and cross all the T's?
So we already bought a ticket like 6 months ahead of time.
We bought a ticket. Then we had this debate, refunded. Like,
why did we have the debate? Suddenly my 14-year, become a U.S. citizen journey. Literally, it all happened the week before my brother's wedding.
Oh, wow.
So she had an appointment to actually get her U.S. citizenship, which has been a 7-year process?
Since I got my green card, but it's been like a 14-year
process. And so now this moment of truth, and it's like, oh my gosh, it was happening like the week before. And so we were like, we can't go. We canceled the flight.
And the issue is that you have to give in your passport.
Yeah.
So that's
when you get your citizenship, you have to give them your
original passport.
Yes. So it's
your ID. You had to give them your ID, didn't you? Or no, your green card. So you didn't have a way to get back if you didn't have a passport. But the passport, to get a passport would take months.
Yeah.
So we were like, there's no way.
And I can only imagine basically when you take citizenship of a new country, some countries will let you have dual citizenship. Some will want you to basically, you basically denounce one citizenship of one country kind of thing.
I would have denounced it if I had to, because this is where I want to be.
Yeah.
Hashtag America.
No, you have dual citizenship, but she had to give them her green card to receive, like, I'm a U.S. citizen.
So I wouldn't have a way of coming back. So imagine everything that you worked for, that
And
you
getting trapped.
that you believed in, right? You're now torn between that or I want to be there for my family. It was such a trip.
Yeah.
But
It was
anyways, you know, like with commitment comes creativity, and
we jumped through a bunch of hoops. Luckily, we knew some people who were a little bit more connected, so we were able to get her an appointment. But we were on our way to Key West because we live in South Florida. So we were going to drive down to Key West. We were like, you get your citizenship. We're going to celebrate it. Since we can't go to Israel, like, we're going to, do this other thing.
Yeah.
Literally on the drive to Key West, we get in contact with Wasserman Schultz, the governor, not the governor, the Secretary of State. I don't know what she is. Anyways,
she was somebody that could help.
So she's like, okay, we'll get you an appointment. And so we're driving down, we fill out all this paperwork on the way down. And we're like, well, we're going to have to come back early now because your appointment's on this day. And then got a flight for the following day.
Less than 24 hours later.
So she had a passport in her hand within like 48 hours.
Wow.
And then we were on our way to Israel, crossing our fingers, hoping to God I was able to get in.
So Israel has crazy COVID restrictions. Like,
this is all recent.
This was 2021.
That was like a year ago.
Wow. Jeez.
So because they do all the testing there, literally, like, unless you have some kind of approval, and it doesn't matter if you have family or whatever, you're not an Israeli citizen. You were literally not allowed to get into the country. But we're like, okay, like, if she's not able to make it, they're for sure not going to let her in.
Yeah. So if I didn't have the right paperwork, I was like, they won't let me board the plane, in my logical
from America.
Right. So yeah, from America. So I was like, we had all the paperwork. We brought our marriage certificate. We brought, whatever documents. And we're like, we get to Fort Lauderdale Airport and we're like, okay, here's the paperwork we have. Like, is there anything else? We actually went to the airport to talk to somebody to figure out what documentation do we need to fly. This was like before our flight. We like went a few days early.
We went out of our way. We went the extra mile. Every person gave us like imagine those are government sources. Everybody gave you a different piece of information. So you're like, let's do the best that we can. If it's not meant to be, they're for sure going to block us. Like, why would you put somebody on the plane that you're going to deny?
Yeah.
Right?
But even before that, we went on a little field trip to the airport to figure out, let's just talk to a human being to see what documentation do we need to get over there. And so we thought we had everything together. And so we go to Fort Lauderdale Airport. We show them the documentation. They're like, here's your boarding passes. I'm like, sweet, we're good to go.
Yeah.
We fly to JFK. And I'm like, if anywhere, they're not going to let us on here because like there's extra security because Israel's crazy and they've got very high security. They check your bags multiple times. There was even another security like
right
at the gate,
you get on the plane.
at the gate. You have to put your bags through stuff again. And they took our temperature. By the way, nobody asked for a COVID vaccine. And
like a card?
They just took our temperature and they're like, okay, you're good to go, whatever. Give them my boarding pass. I go through the thing. They let us get on the plane. I'm like, for sure.
I called my mom. I'm like,
we're on our way.
On the plane.
We're on the way.
We're on our way.
Yeah.
And so we get to Israel and we're going through customs. We wait for probably 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
At customs. And we get to the window. And I just remember, you ever had this feeling where you're just like, you literally cannot believe the truth that is existing in front of you. So they were like, she can't come in.
They're like, you go here, you go back.
I was like, no. I'm a salesperson. I was like, I'm gonna negotiate this with Israel, like at customs. I'm gonna negotiate it.
I'll sell you some new missiles.
I'm like, we're married. Her family lives here. And they're like, doesn't matter. They don't care. And so, we're just in this customs area. They're just basically, they're like, long story short, they sent me back to the very plane that brought us there. They escorted me. They took my bag apart. They put it through a special security thing like 3 times, then told me to put my bag back together. And then
They took your
they
passport,
took my
your
passport,
identity.
and then they escorted me all the way through the airport like I'm some kind of criminal back to the plane. They held the plane and then got me on it. They gave my passport to the flight crew. And they were like, you'll get it when you leave. I'm like, what am I going to jump out the window and try to land on Israeli soil? Like what? So I felt like I don't know if dehumanized is the right word, but like, I felt like, man, like
It
I'm a
is
criminal.
dehumanizing.
And so then I fly back. I was like, for one, she has to be there for a minimum number of days because of COVID. So there's like, you've got quarantine for whatever, and you can't even fly back until after that period. And you have to test out of that if you want to go any earlier. And it's still a minimum number of days. And so here I am, like we've traveled. It was probably about 24 hours of travel for me. She had all the snacks. So that was like the worst thing.
To make it matters worse, we were hangry.
But, not that we are not independent people. We can't be separate from one another. When you don't expect that to happen and it's completely separate countries, it is very impactful emotionally in that moment. And so I had a choice this is going back to, sometimes you have to climb the mountain high enough to see a different view, that's not the right place, but you are responsible for finding the purpose in it so that you can feel better and you can move forward. If that's even the only thing, it's worth it. So on my way back, I felt my feelings. That's not a bad thing. I cried. I did whatever. I made friends with one of the guys. He gave me an extra meal. Super cool. And
since Sarit took all the snacks.
Yeah. I was like, I think he felt for me. I think he felt for me. He was trying to teach me Hebrew. And so on that ride back, I knew in my heart, I have to find what the purpose is for this. And I came back, I sat in my feelings for about a day, and then I went to the beach and I just wrote. I just wrote with a good old pen and paper. And I decided my role in that was to safely escort Sarit to Israel for her brother's wedding. And we FaceTimed. It makes me emotional because I'm like, that is something that everybody has a choice. When you face adversity, and that's not the worst thing in the world that could happen. But when you have some kind of trauma or adversity, that maybe what happened to you is you're not responsible for, but you are responsible for how you move through it and past it. Because you're the only one that can help you in that moment. And you have to make that decision. What is this for? We were watching some videos in there of people who've gone from just like absolutely terrible circumstances to
unbelievable achievements,
crushing it, unstoppable. And, those are the most inspiring stories. So, if anybody's like listening to this or watching this and they're facing some kind of trauma or adversity in this moment, my encouragement would be, you have such an opportunity to inspire somebody with what's happening in your life right now. How are you going to move through it?
Amen.
So sometimes you have to climb that mountain high enough to see a different view, to recognize, oh shoot, that's the one maybe I'm.
What's really crazy is I also think there's another hidden thing that I picked up on, and part of the reason I do what I do now, whether it's in the business sector or the life sector or whatever, is I realized that all of that crazy adversity, at least for me, help create empathy within me for the person who is going to go through similar circumstances to which I just went through. Like it gives you a unique calling card to assist them in that moment, at that time, specifically with that thing. And I'm thinking about it. I'm just thinking about all the impact that you guys have made together since with the business, with yourselves, with the videos, with the social, with all of it. Right. The one thing that always comes across is there's a supreme level of empathy, but also a supreme level of grit. Right. There's always like, all right, you need a hug. You need a kick in the butt. You're getting a kick in the butt. I'm giving you a hug. Right. And the only way you get to the point you can delineate between the two is after having gone through some really hard stuff yourself. That's the only way that I think you can recognize that a soul doesn't need a punch in the face right now. This soul, on the other hand, this soul needs a big hug. This soul needs a grandfather. This soul needs a grandmother. This soul needs a puppy's, wet kisses on their face. Right. Other souls, like you straight up need a punch in the face. Like, come here, like, kind of thing. And that's one of the takeaways that I've seen specifically with these types of moments. Because even like this story specifically, like I was reflecting back to my wife and we fell in love over FaceTime. Like fell like deeply, madly. Like we went on an amazing date. I told you guys last night, I knew like that. Like I literally heard in my spirit, like there's so many different things I shared with you guys last night, like almost audibly, like she's the one. You know, it took her an extra few days, you know, it's okay. Right. You know, but when I was destined, I was supposed to go to Ireland for, 2 weeks as like a sabbatical. You know, I even told my wife at that point, we were just kind of briefly getting to know each other. And it was like a whirlwind 2 days before I went like to Ireland. And then I found out at dinner that the first night that she used to live in Ireland, you know, so she's sending me FaceTime or videos like throughout. It's like, okay, go here. Make sure you go and check out this pub. Make sure you go here and eat this food. Make sure you go do this. Make sure you go to St. Stephen's Green. Like, make sure you go to the Ring of Kerry. Like she was like my virtual tour guide.
Yeah.
But on top of that, such a time difference. Like I remember this. In fact, we talked about this. We talked about these moments about kismet moments, right? These moments that are like your confirmation. Like confirm this for me. Like buying the building. We talked about a little bit. Like confirm it for me. One of the defining moments was we were having a whirlwind romance via the FaceTime. Like, and we talked about everything. Like you don't talk to somebody at that level, at that depth when you're dating them face to face because everything else is in the way.
Sure.
Right. You're super attractive. You smell super good. You know, all
it's
kind
the
of
newness.
Yeah. It's the newness. Right. Well, that distance created a certain level of depth that wouldn't have gotten there without that distance to begin with. But I remember now, like, I remember this moment. I was probably 3/4 of the way through the trip. And then I was like, God, is she the one? Cause I have a really bad picker. Like I've picked some really big doozies and like, I want a partner. I want a wife. Like I want somebody who's my ride or die. Right. That's what I want. Right. And if she's not it, I just want you to get out of the picture. Cause I don't want to go through the heartache and whatever. And sure enough, like the night before we got on a FaceTime call, it's like 2 a.m. for me, 9 p.m. for her. She just got off for work at Talbot's, when retail places she used to work at. And I remember in my thing, it's just ask her how she says, what was it? Ask her how she spells love.
Okay.
Ask her how she spells love. And I was like, this is crazy. But I get all crazy, fiery, hot, like I'm on fire. And I said, I have a silly question for you. And she's like, okay, what? Shoot. I said, how do you spell love? And she goes, you.
Oh.
We both started. Yeah. We both started like happy crying a little bit. And she goes, something just happened. I'm like, you have no idea.
Wow.
You have no idea. And see, the fact that you're willing to share the story about, being separated and not being able to get to the person that you care about most and not being able to even experience some of those moments alongside of them while they're doing this thing, it's very similar to what Karen and I went through, different circumstances, but it took me right back to that moment.
Yeah.
Right. So when you're telling your story, I'm like, you know what I'm saying? With this adversity thing, I feel like that is the calling card of empathy. That is the thing that actually creates the modality to allow you to open a heart to the help that it needs to actually better itself in the future. We talked a lot about last night about something I think we both discovered, which is people come to us for what they want. Oftentimes they find what they need.
They should.
Yeah.
They should.
I'm curious, like, let's talk a little bit about that because, you work with some amazing human beings who are on amazing journeys of themselves. What are some of the roadblocks that you see that people struggle with that are preventing them from really becoming their truest self?
I'll tell you.
I just want to say, first of all, like I know a bunch of our people are going to watch this. And so, I just want to say thank you for their trust in us. Like, we don't get to where we are without people trusting us.
Oh, for sure.
Because everybody's a nobody at some point.
Absolutely.
Everybody's a nobody.
Yeah, absolutely.
To the world. Right.
There's that empathy again.
And so like people have to trust you. You have to trust us.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
In order to say, hey, meet my friend, whoever. Right. And somebody has to trust you to give you their hard-earned money to say, I think you can help me. I hope to God you can. And so, it's something that we have a deep gratitude for is all the people in our community. We call them the ES Army. And so you guys are watching, like, you guys are awesome.
Yeah, that was one of my gratitudes. You were in my gratitude for this morning.
Thank you.
And so were they. Yeah. Going back to, so I want to share something to top off what I knew it was going to be this type of conversation.
See, this is us, right?
It's the roundabout.
Yeah.
By the way, you know how I know that you really love Karen?
How's that?
Your mind goes to her with every single thing that you do.
Yeah, there's some truth to that.
I don't know if you picked up on it, but I have. And it made me really emotional because that's true love right there, which I think is rare to find.
There's something powerful about realistically finding your person.
Yes.
But even when you find your person, you can go through some serious tests just trying to be in that moment. And because Karen's gone through some serious health issues that we discussed a little bit. And it's hard to help your person when you can't help your person.
Right. Yeah, I get it. When you have overcome the struggles that your people are going through, right? Like I always say, my mess became my message. You can look at somebody in the eye and you can tell what they're going through. And, a lot of times when we do our YouTubes or when we do just like our live chats, people are like, did you talk directly to me today? We're like, we're not planning on it, but it sounded this way because, I think your message can penetrate so deep when it's authentic, and like some of the things we talked about last night, like, we know what a certain person is going through without even like meeting them, simply because we've been through the same pattern. So we're like, that path is so familiar. Like, I know what it looks like. And, from what we've seen, I would say the two things that, makes people conform to, let's just say, their current beingness rather than, transforming, because looking at the peak of the mountain is beautiful, but climbing the mountain is painful. It's really painful. Right. And that's why most people don't make it, and, we tell our people from day one, this shit's going to be hard. We're not telling them it's going to be quick. It's going to be easy. We're like, it's going to be harder than you think. And it's going to take you longer than you think. But the good news is that you're not going through it alone.
Yeah.
So it's not about, like how quickly I can do it. It's rather, how far am I willing to go? And the two biggest things, and at least this is from literally just what I've experienced having coached people, is two things. Number one, their current thoughts. We call those limiting beliefs. And I think, limiting beliefs, we all have them and we're not even aware of them because it's just
you believe
it's a manifestation of all of the experiences that we've had up till now.
Yeah.
And when we haven't seen anything differently, how can we, unless we're open-minded to putting on a different set of shades, we're going to continue seeing the same thing over and over and over again. So, and we can go into more detail with regards to that. So limiting beliefs is one. The other one that I would say is breakpoint number 3 is fear of criticism.
Yeah.
What was the question originally?
You know what? Our conversation's gone so well. I can't really get back to it. But other than the primary roadblocks.
What would you say are the roadblocks that hold people back from like creating their true transformation?
While you're processing, I want to jump in there for just a second, because one of the things that you just said about, I actually jotted this down at the very beginning, which is, are you living the life that you're choosing to live? Or are you living the life that someone expected you to live?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I find that people struggle so much with, and it goes back to that almost like that comparison kind of thing. Like you don't want to let somebody down or, somehow be the element of their pain or whatever, but that element of their pain is costing you pain, and like all of that rolled in together. And one of the things that it also piggybacks to limiting belief. My father once told me, after he lost his business and went through some stuff, he said, Scoggins don't get ahead, they get by.
Mm.
And he's like, oh, and he looked at me dead in my eyes and said, I want you to remember that. I'm like, and for the longest time, it derailed me, and then I finally realized I was starting to live out the expectations that he put on himself. And I think we do that accidentally as people. And I also feel like, when you set out to change your journey, or you set out to overcome the limiting belief, the only antidote that I've seen for limiting beliefs is imagination. You have to go to that place and imagine what it could be like. You have to you get super clear. You draft it, you take a notebook, you write it all out, you cut out pictures, you do whatever it takes to like imagine yourself in a future. And you keep putting yourself there. And to me, that's the only reprogramming mechanism that I've seen that's actually been beneficial from overcoming a limiting. You can have coaches and they're helpful because they're a reminder, right? But so much of the transformation has to come from the place of internal, right? I wake up every morning, this morning, and I some goofy IMs, right? But I did mirror work first, like big mirror work.
Like affirmations.
Yeah, like affirmations. I am healthy. I am wealthy. I am wise. I am a good person. I am someone who's here to steward wealth. I'm someone here to steward people to passion and purpose. And I say that to myself almost like an incantation to help me overcome the moments when I'm like, I don't freaking want to do it today. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I know they're in pain. I know I can help them, but I'm freaking tired. And then I have to remind myself, I am a good steward. And that goes to that motion, but then there's also the visualization of the imagination. Imagining myself helping that person, imagining myself putting myself out there like you guys do. I don't know. It's just, I love our conversations.
Yeah. Same. And I agree too, because you know what, I'll tell you, like, even when working with a coach, like you can get a strategy, but I'm the same way. And that's why I believe in people so much, because I know that my dark is really dark. And I'm like, dude, like if I've overcome this shit, like, trust me, just like trust the process. Okay. But like, stop thinking about the how fast and just put in the reps each and every single day. And, like we were talking about it this morning, the only way for me to be able to like break through in here is by giving myself the space to like look within. Otherwise, like these voices get so loud and it's just like, so repetitive, right? So it's like, putting in that work and just giving yourself the time and space to like ask yourself, what if, or like, how can I, and just let it sit. Like, don't expect for it to come to you, but like over time, you're going to start like gain consciousness, right? And there's a reason for that. Now, whether you choose to, grab those little golden nuggets or not, that's completely up to you. But that's why you have to be ruthless about putting in the work.
Well, do you find that, like, let's say you have 100 golden nuggets thrown at you, and you take 80 of them, and 20 fall by the wayside? Is it safe to say that that's okay? You missed 20, so what? You got 80, and then you're gonna have those same 20 or 60 or 40 is gonna happen again. Like, we focus on the 20.
I am okay with missing 99 if I get that right one that I'm at right now.
I was gonna say the same thing. I was like, I'll take 2.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, you can read a book and, I've known people who brag about how many books they read in a year.
Yeah.
And if your life hasn't changed, I don't give a shit how many books you read.
That's the truth.
I'd rather you read one book over and over and over for the entire year and implement it, because I think there's so much information now that it is so easy to just fire up the old Google machine and read and books and articles and YouTube videos and all this stuff. Thanks for watching. And, it's like, but implement, because nothing changes if you're just consuming, but never doing.
Yeah.
It's like food and working out, like eat all day, you don't move your body.
No, it's like you can read all the workouts to do, but if you never go to the gym, what's the point?
Right. No, but what I'm saying, like, there needs to be a harmony, right? Of like ingest and digest.
Yeah. And then poop.
Yeah.
Release.
Yeah.
I like that. Poop.
Um,
We're going to end on poop. No, I'm just kidding. We're keeping going.
So I want to go back to the question of like, what are the biggest roadblocks? Because I have two different answers. And I think that one of them is a self-worth issue. I think one of them is something happened. I believe every person in their childhood experiences an emotional or mental trauma by a parent that doesn't realize
they're only doing what they've been taught to do.
And we actually did a podcast. We did an interview with one of our friends, Alejandra, who said, she's like, if a baby's crying, they have no logical reasoning when they're an infant. But when they're crying and you go in the room, you say, Stephen, they know, hey, that's me. They've made an association that when that name is said, that means me. That's their identity. I'm Stephen.
Yeah.
And then you say, what's wrong? So then they think, oh, well, if I'm crying and screaming, I'm wrong. Something's wrong. And then, so then where the authenticity piece is, where you asked in the very beginning is, there's a lot of people who have a hard time living into who they really are. I think it's because we think that we're wrong for doing something that is so naturally human of us. And so there's other things like that happen where it's like we just communicate, but we don't realize what's happening in the person when we're communicating. It is a superpower to have an influence over a lot of people, but with that power comes responsibility. Because like you're saying, somebody needs a kick in the ass, somebody else needs a hug. You have to be able to differentiate between the two, because you could ruin someone's life if you don't. And I think self-worth is one of them, where they're just like, they feel like a burden if they ask for help. They feel like, and who knows what happened, know, what they experienced if they asked their mom for help and their mom's like, can you just go sit down? Like, in that like moment of just frustration, which like moms are superheroes. So like, nobody's perfect, but in that moment, it could be like, well, I'm wrong if I ask for help. So now I don't ask for help because I was criticized for it. So self-worth, I think, is one thing. The other thing is just a fear of failure, which is most people's like roadblock. Because
again, that's also like all these things are so subconscious, and that's what people don't realize.
Well, that's the thing. I think transformation comes from taking the subconscious and bringing it conscious. The people that move forward are the ones who are able to say, why? Why do I do that? Not out of judgment or condemnation, but just, I wonder where that came from. Is this my belief, or is this a belief that's been projected onto me that I've chosen to adopt? Like, you know what I'm saying? There's so many different things. And you would think, as long as we've been doing some of this work ourselves, like it still happens almost daily. Like we challenge our, but it's, which I don't want to discourage people, because it's like the work's never done. Well, the work is done at different levels, right? You have different valleys, different peaks and stuff like that. And it's the continuation of the process. I actually think that the reason the hero's journey thing works, right? And like every single book in the world or every single movie in the world that follows the hero's journey is because it's life. Like we all see ourselves as the unknown, the undiscovered, the undervalued in many respects, right? And then what changes? An awareness. Right?
That's what Napoleon Hill calls the wheel of life.
So I want to go back to that, because when you said something very important, you said the people who overcome are the people who bring the subconscious to the conscious. And it's by asking yourself questions. And I struggled with disordered eating patterns for about 5 years. I lost a bunch of weight in a relatively healthy way. And then I did a figure competition, and my diet was so strictly regimented, my cardio, so many hours a day, training, everything revolved around eat, sleep, train. That was it. And while maintaining a full-time personal training job. And I did the show because for me, it's do or die. There is no plan B. There are no ships. They've been burned. I'm going to do this or I'm not going to do it. If you mess up one time, it's game over.
Mhm.
And I developed some disordered habits
Yeah.
within that. And I ended up, I'm going to get to the point. I ended up seeing a counselor at the college I was going to, was my psychology teacher.
Mhm.
And I don't remember her name. I wish I did, because I wish I could go back to her and like thank her.
Yeah.
But the main thing that I learned from that is how to ask myself powerful questions. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what she asked me, what she said to me. What I remember is she had me write down certain things when I thought about them.
Mhm.
And then I started asking myself other questions. Well, why did I think that? Why did I respond that way? And why did I feel this way when that happened, or when that person said that to me, or when, and I still do that.
Yeah.
And I think that that is bringing the subconscious to a conscious awareness to say, why am I operating the way that I am? And if something's not ticking right, what can I do to shift
getting
that?
the results. Yeah. What's really crazy is this, one of the things that I realized early on was it wasn't just asking the question, it was asking the question in the proper phrasing. Because the brain, for some reason, like if you ask yourself, why does my job suck?
Right.
Your brain is going to give you 15 different reasons why your job sucks. Right. But if you ask yourself, I wonder how I could make my job a little more enjoyable.
Yeah.
Your brain will answer the same question.
Yeah.
You know, and part of my breakthrough specifically is like learning to ask myself properly phrased questions, which means I have to ask it in such a way that takes my dream of my imaginated dream and merges that with an empowering process. And if I don't funnel that question through those two resources, I can almost always guarantee it's going to be a limiting belief or a negative thought pattern. Right. So case in point, you know, I'm trying to figure out, okay, I got this amazing facility. We do all these wonderful live events, which is crazy just in and of itself. And now I want to hang out off the side of the mountain. Like I want to go to a mountain in somewhere in North Carolina or some mountainous region. And I want to literally take the building that I have and bolt it to the side of a mountain so people can get the beauty of the peace and quiet of the mountain. Okay. My first thought after having the dream was, dude, you can't do that. No one's done that before.
It's crazy.
It's insane. But then that's where the challenge thought comes play. It's like, all right, so first of all, dude, you've done a lot of things that people said you couldn't do, for one. Second of all, if you were going to do it, how would you do it?
Yeah. Yeah, there's no shame in going there.
Yeah.
I think people are afraid to go there because they think they're committing themselves to something.
Yeah.
Now. But it's like we automatically go to the absolute worst thing ever.
Unless we've trained ourselves not to.
Yeah. And a perfect example, just one that is like constantly fresh in my mind, because I know our programs offer solutions for women who are like really.
You can read the comments. It's pretty profound.
So whenever I feel down, I go there and I read them and I'm like, this is why I'm here.
Yeah.
So, you know, thank you for writing all of those. But when we offer one of our programs, and people don't enroll because what if I don't follow through? The alternative, our brain automatically goes there. But if you ask yourself, what's the alternative? What if it did work? Like, why?
Yeah. Like, what are you costing yourself? Yeah.
I think a great habit to build is to say, what's the great thing that could happen if I did do this? So going back to the cost of transformation is there's a cost no matter what. Choose what you're going to pay.
Yeah.
You're going to pay in misery and self-doubt and low self-worth, low self-confidence, low self-esteem, self-doubt. If I didn't say already, I think I did. Or you're going to pay in continuous, like, even if the rest of your life, like you died trying to reach your goals.
For sure.
Is that more admirable than just giving up? There's a cost no matter what. Or I say, like, it's hard. Life is just hard.
Well, and you're going to be surrounded by people that are going to, I mean, I've dealt with this even recently. Like, you know, what gives you the right to think you can go out there and become a quote unquote thought leader? What gives you the right to put your, like,
what gives anybody?
What are you thinking? Like, no one, like,
what gives Tony Robbins?
Yeah, that's the thing is you start thinking, but you have people that surround you, that unfortunately in many cases re-intensify your limiting belief. right? I gave you a story of my dad earlier. I've had situations where it's like a 3-day live event, dude, really? Like, who's going to come to your 3-day live event? And I'm thinking, I don't know. I'm going to build it and see what happens. You're crazy a little bit, but I think I could do something cool if I just do it. Like if I just try, right? Try to get to 5 people at my event. Try to get to 100 people at my event, right? You look at all the thought leaders that everybody knows, like, and respects, right? I've had some very, very wonderful people come here for different events. Many of them A-list, thought leaders now. In the green room, they were sharing stories. Not one single one of them started there.
Nope.
Right.
All of them started by teaching one person, and then 2 people, and then 3 people, and then 10 people, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 50,000, 1,000,000.
Yeah.
Like, we limit ourselves so much by the ignorance of not knowing or not going to the place of what if it's possible.
Let me tell you something. When we first started our business in 2018, we went door to door. We printed out a map. It's like when you printed things.
Yeah.
We printed out a map and I taped this shit together because it was multiple pieces of paper. And we said, where's all the CrossFit gyms? We've got to go to the CrossFit gyms. We're going to do a free nutrition seminar. And I think we charged like $100 and something a month for, which is probably like, it doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. We taped these papers together and we're like, okay, this gym, this gym, this gym, this gym, this gym. We like mapped out our route. We drove in a Ford Focus 2008 with busted ass rear view mirrors, duct taped onto the side of the car. Whenever we did a live video from the car, people thought we had a sports car because it was so loud. Meanwhile, it's just old and falling apart. Yeah. It's like,
They thought it was a Mustang.
I just let them think it, but we would, like, hey, is the owner here? We printed out this little pamphlet of just jankety.
Yeah.
Here's who we are, little graphics I put together, and nobody would call us back. We would call, we'd follow up. We were just savage. Like, the only thing that we could do at that point.
Every once in a while, you'll get a really rude response back. Okay.
And then, it's like,
you got to push past that crap.
Yeah. Nobody knows who you are. So what's your credibility? And people give us a chance. We build relationships. I think one thing that we are pretty decent at, and because just human, we're all human.
Yeah.
And it's like, we have a solution, but the point of the story is we started there was 4 people at our first seminar, and it was our own gym that we went to. There was more people there because they knew us and it was our own gym. But there was like only a few people, like it never grew. And then our first live event that we did, I think we had 17 people and then the second one we had like 30 something. And then this last one we had like 60 something live and like 30 something virtual.
Yeah.
And it just, people look at the 10 years down the road without seeing the beginning.
Yeah.
And then they think, I can't do that.
Well, and the crazy part is, when the crazy part is in this specific environment, it doesn't matter. This same concept applies to pretty much any profession, any life.
Yeah.
One of the things that you don't realize too, and this is something that goes back to what my grandfather told me a long time ago. He says, if you can't respect and give to the one, you'll never be able to give to the many.
That's so true.
Right.
It's like gratitude.
Yeah.
If you can't accept where you are now, you'll never.
Exactly. So it's like every time I sit down with somebody one-on-one, Brian, who's been patiently watching behind the cameras, guys, you need to know Brian. We'll have to give him the come
Shout out to Brian.
Come here, Brian.
Shout out to Brian.
Come on. Quickly.
He made sure Sarit's mic worked.
Yeah. So we're going to say, hey, Brian, this is all, everybody, this is B. So, but one of the things that we've discovered is one of the most, in fact, just a super quick true story. So I brought Transform You Live back as a live event again, beginning of 2021, October 2021. Okay. All of the quote funnels fell apart, right?
Banging.
Right. Just completely like, we're expecting this kind of turnout and it ended up being this kind of turnout. Here's what I didn't know. My thought leader friends who were largely mentoring me and kind of keeping me at a distance, right?
Sure.
they watched the entire event. When the entire event was over and done with, all of a sudden they got more behind me than had ever been done before. And I'm like, dude, like, I appreciate you. What's going on? He's like,
can I guess?
Yeah.
Was they saw your courage and your continuous just fight to do it regardless of what was going to happen. And when somebody does that, they're like, I know that's a fighter right there. I'm going to get behind that person.
It's pretty much pretty much verbatim. Yeah.
That's how you handled the breakdown.
Yeah. They were like, dude, you showed up as if that room had 100,000 people in there. Right. And it's because I remember being the one, like I was the one begging for someone to help me. Like, I will do the work. Like, just show me, coach me, teach me, help me. Like, being that one person, and I'll be doggone if I ever do an event or something, and I don't speak to that person, right? Because I haven't done a single event yet, or a single coaching session, or a single one-on-one that moment hasn't taken place.
Yeah.
Right. However, I could be like what the world tries to teach us to be like, which is, oh, just be the guru. Go rent a Lambo, stand beside a Lambo and tell everybody you got billions of dollars so they'll like you. Well, if you're so busy trying to get them to like you, you're not actually focused on serving them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I love what you guys do so much is because you are so freaking intentional. Like most of the people watching and listening right now don't even understand what you've already done several times throughout the course of the podcast so far, which is show love and respect to the audience. They're always at the top of your mind. Always. Right? I said top of your mind. I guarantee you just saw 5 faces, 10 faces. You know what I'm saying?
My eyes got watery because it's like ever since I was young, I thought there's like, I'm not special. Like I'm made of something different than anybody else. But in my mind, I always just thought like I'm put here. I couldn't articulate it when I was younger, but there was this just feeling that I had. And now that I'm older and I can see how things are kind of unfolding, I'm like, I've always known I'm here for a purpose, for something. And even in my dark moments, like when I didn't,
you still feel it.
Well, I mean, I didn't know. I was like, what is the purpose? You know, but when you've not had a family history of wealth or like, you know, my parents are amazing parents. Like they're still together and they did everything that they could. They put us in sports, which probably kept me out of a lot of trouble. And they, you know, fought tooth and nail. We didn't have a ton of money. You know, we would shop at thrift stores and things like that, but they did everything that they could. But I still don't come from a wealthy background. And it's when you have to climb and climb and climb and climb and climb, you have to also remember the people who have trusted you, the people who have backed you, the people who have given you a chance. You know, every person that we meet along the way, it's hard not to say like, oh, this person is like, I think in terms of like, this person has traveled a specific part of their journey further than I have. And I admire where they've gone and I want to get there. And like you, if you give us a chance, if you trust us and you say, hey, I'm going to bring you on a podcast, I'm going to introduce you to my audience. That means so much because you don't have to do that. People don't have to sign up for our programs. And so if they feel forgotten about, what do you have left?
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things that I'm dead set on is I have zero interest in becoming another guru. Like, I don't care if my audience ends up being 1,000 people or 10 people or one person or 100. Like, it's all the same to me. I want to be a guide. Like, and one of the reasons that I had to have you guys on is because I get Bo, who does my bookings for me. Okay. Turns away about 80% of the people that try to get on the show. He'll ask me about so and so. Huh? Yeah. Yeah, you met Bo.
Yeah,
you met Bo. Yeah, there's already conversations about how Bo can help y'all. So,
oh
sure.
Man.
But what I'm getting at is like so many people try to get onto the show. Okay. Some that have quote unquote no notability, some that have notability, and Bo has approached me about it. Everything in between, like, hey, what about so and so? I'm like, dude, everything that I've ever seen about them, they're not really in it to help people. Like, I want to have people on the show who are in it to help people. Now they build big businesses as a result of helping people at scale. Fantastic. As long as they're helping people at scale. And one thing that I think separates you guys and why you guys are going to be our integral part of our wellness program, especially when it comes to the wellness that you guys put together, from supplementation to workouts and all that kind of stuff, is because you're intentional and you care. You're not doing this to make a quick buck. You're doing this because the people that you work with actually like go to you like, you changed my freaking life. You taught me the cost of transformation, and I was willing to pay it.
If I was trying to make a quick buck, I would not be doing this.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Entrepreneurship.
Now, you were tearing up. Why? Just now.
Because I'm a little softy.
No.
I'm just grateful. I think it comes with, like, I'm not even on my period, dude. You know? Why are you laughing?
Yeah,
these girls. You know,
it's good. I think it's powerful.
Yeah, it's just when you can have a meaningful conversation with somebody and you can think about where you've been and how far you've come. It's just, I think in that moment I was like, man, it's worth all of the shitstorms.
Yeah.
Like, it is worth, you know, employees getting crazy and having to deal with fires, and it's worth, you know, funnels breaking and all of that. In that moment, you're like, ah,
yeah.
But then you get through it and you're like, I'm stronger.
You know what's really crazy? Brian can vouch for this as he's watching, even though the audience got to meet him for a quick second. But I have gone to Brian and said, Brian, I'm ready. I'm done. I can't go any further.
I think it happens to all of
like
us.
I'm done. Like, I've invested so much money, so much time and energy. We're not getting the traction we need. You know, I'm done.
You can't.
Or I'm tired. And then literally, like, he'll like give me a big old hug. Like, he just kind of smile at me, like almost like, I know you can change your mind tomorrow. So I don't even, this is.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of like that. But the crazy part is like, you know, people like Brian and Kyle and Karen and other people like yourself, and they're in the corner, right? They're like, no, dude, you can't give up. You can't. Like, even in that moment I was giving you about the event, right? That buy-in that came was like, dude, you showed up. Like, I'm in it. I'm here to help you now. Like, it's real, right? That kind of thing. And I feel like that when you as a person step into that zone of, I will do whatever it takes. I will do whatever it takes to get to that place. The mentors, everybody you need, the techniques, the teachings, the nutrition, all of that, all of a sudden gets laid right in front of you. But
you have to surrender.
Exactly. But they don't take the step. So many don't. Well, I say they. So many don't take the step, and so many could. So many could. So we want to invite you to make sure you're taking the step.
Yeah.
Take the step.
What is that next step? Like, it's good to say, like, oh yeah, I'm going to take the next step after watching this, but I want you to like write down, like, what literal next step am I going to take? And we're so afraid to pursue something because we don't know.
Yeah.
But do you know how to walk before you started trying to walk?
Not in my knowledge.
Absolutely not. You hang onto a table and you do that thing.
Yeah. The diaper dance.
Yeah. And then, you know, you fall.
Yeah.
You're like, well, that didn't work. But it doesn't prevent you from trying again. Because by nature, we are overcomers. Like, you think about all of the stuff like you've been through in your life. Why are you still here?
Why am I still here? I have to believe it's for a purpose.
Yeah. Like, we're survivors.
Yeah.
Like, we will figure it out.
Yeah.
But the only way to know is to do first. You can't know what you haven't done.
Yeah. I want to fail so many times it guarantees my success.
Yeah. It's like when the funnel breaks, if it hadn't broken, you wouldn't know what to do. Okay. So now you have an event with 1,000 people. And guess what? You've never been through a funnel breakdown. You've never had your email deliverability go into the garbage can. None of that's ever happened. You can't learn from it. That happened to us last year. It was like a challenge from hell. We had like 10,000 people sign up, and all the emails were going to spam. We had like nobody show up. It was so we felt like we were getting, and we felt like we were getting beat up by the people who were new into our audience because they weren't getting the experience that we had intended for them to get. And so, then it's like, well, we made a bad impression on a bunch of people unintentionally, but it's like, if none of that breakdown would have happened, like Sarit says, you have a breakdown before you have a breakthrough. And if none of those things happen, then you don't know how to handle them. So, okay, everybody wants this like really big audience really fast. But if you haven't learned all of the pieces that could go wrong before, and you'll never learn them all, but if you don't learn them along the way, okay, now you have this massive audience that you let down.
Yeah.
Because you don't know how to handle it.
They don't feel seen, valued, heard, or connected.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a disservice.
Now I've been watching you jot down notes like crazy. So we gotta let Sarit off the chain.
Yeah. I want to say two things. First, I want to commend you because you can just tell when somebody is in it for a bigger purpose. It is felt. And speaking about intentionality, as we were walking here, that's all I picked up. Like what stood out to me so much is how intentional you are. And I'm tearing up as I'm saying all of this. And you're an extraordinary human being because you make ordinary things extraordinary. And I was like, literally, like everything was like, and that's what allows you to make a remarkable experience. And I think that's how we help people, get incredible results in a sustainable format because we take them on a journey. We give them an experience. It's not just a diet. It's not a workout program. We make them laugh. We make them cry. We share, like we laugh with them. We cry with them. We grow with them. And
we give them life.
And and you get to
sure.
experience life. And when you get an understanding that, like this is life, but what kind of experience do I want to have in the first place? Because for anybody who's watching, like, let's say if it's weight loss, right? It's like, how many diets have you tried? How many workout programs have you been on? It's not that you don't know what to do. We were just talking about that. It's about what experience are you going through? Like when it's shitty, when you're not like, when the only emotion that you're getting is dissatisfaction, like, why would you? Right. But when you get a better understanding of who you are and you make it fun and you make it exciting. And then, every once in a while you have a realization and you get all confused. You're like, oh, like it pushes you to, challenge yourself more. And what I wanted to share with regards to what is your next step, I wanted to offer a suggestion. And the suggestion is, when it comes to your thoughts, think in terms of leaps, but when it comes to your actions, think in terms of steps. And I think it's really important to, approach it this way because we do live in the 21st century where, like nobody has any patience. Everybody wants everything right now. So, it's like if we want to drop 20 pounds, it's like we want it to happen like in 14 days. And if it didn't happen in 14 days, then I must have not done it right. Something is not working with the program. Something is not working with me. Where the reality is that no, you just need to take simple steps, but you need to think, how far do I want to go? So think in terms of leaps, but act in terms of steps.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That leaps things like that's an imagination again. Like what could you do or what could you accomplish if nothing could stop you?
Right.
So rather than thinking about all the things that can stop you, flip it on its head. Like how far could I go if nothing could stop me?
That's right.
I'm curious, we get lost track of time all the time. Let's talk about your brand, the ES. All right. So when I first met you guys, you're like, yeah, it stands for X. I want you guys to tell that brief story.
Yeah. I mean, our business name is Improve You Solutions, and like legally. And we had a designer create this really cool like ES.
It is a really cool ES, by the way.
But he was making a personal brand. So
Yeah.
it was actually, I have like one of the old bottles that
So
says
do I.
Erin
Yeah.
and Sarit. And that's really cool. Like it got us known. Like people
Mhm.
know us as Erin and Sarit. They don't
Yeah.
go search Interview Solutions, but so
that's how a personal brand works.
it's actually been quite complicated because there's confusion when it comes to like tech stuff and SEO and all this stuff. It's like, what do you go by?
Yeah.
But there was a certain point in time where we were like, this is not about us.
Mm-hmm.
It never really has been,
Mm-hmm.
but I have admitted that in the beginning, like it was a selfish journey for me because I was like, I want to create a life where I can have freedom to travel and have money and do all this
Been
stuff.
there too.
If I knew what I know now, I don't know if I would have done it, but I'm so glad that I didn't know because now it's like we were talking yesterday, your business will only grow to the level that you've personally grown.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is empathy. Part of that is compassion. Part of that is genuinely putting somebody else's problems that you can solve before anything that you get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we wanted to take our names out of it. And we were racking our brains.
And have it be symbolic of what we represent and who we are. So because we are the core that started it, but at the same time, it's not about us. It's about what is this mission all about?
Mm-hmm.
So I need to insert this plug. So we are on a mission to transform the lives of millions through the same movement, nutrition, and lifestyle habits that have transformed ours. And, like everybody's familiar with the ES, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the brand, but it is not about us yet. What character traits that we have defined what is this movement all about?
What does this brand represent?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the E stands for Emunah, and we've had multiple Israel stories. So I was born and raised in Israel, right? And Hebrew is my first language. And in Hebrew, Emunah means deep faith. And the S stands for strength. So it is a deep faith to persevere in your transformation journey. And that's what, we are the vessels of that.
Yeah.
And that's what this is all about.
That's why I wanted you guys to tell us, because I feel like, first of all, some of the most successful business on the planet have done what Batman did. And that's create a bat signal.
Oh yeah.
Right. It's the bat signal in the sky that says, if you need Batman, this is how you call him.
Yeah.
Right. And I figured a long time ago that a lot of times people identify with a brand because of what the brand means. Yeah. And when you're talking about Emunah and strength and deep faith, that's what the world needs. Deep faith, a persevering spirit, a lot of strength, a lot of resilience, a lot of coaching, a lot of help, right? A lot of people who won't tear you down at every given time you have a chance to. What I think I shared with you guys last night, one of the things I'm trying to be known for more than anything else is just like being like completely real, like, and being empathetic and like non-judgmental, but still being responsible with the steps that I have to take, right, to help people become that. And that's what I love so much about you guys. I got a couple of final questions. I know we could talk for days, and we'll have to have you guys back on like soon. What does stuck mean?
What does stuck mean?
What does stuck mean?
Can we each give our own definition?
Of course.
Okay.
I think about quicksand, and when you're stuck, it's an inability to move. And to move is also to emote, which is an emotion. And so if you're stuck, I would correlate that with an inability to feel and express and act on an emotion that will benefit you. This is my unfiltered thinking process through it. But to feel stuck is like the only way you can get out of quicksand is to have somebody help pull you out. Because when you're stuck, how do you help you?
Yeah.
You need somebody else. We're meant to interact with one another. We're not here to be here by ourselves. That's the way God made Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
Not just one.
Yeah.
And we need each other. And I think that when people have this, like they feel like a burden asking for help, like you're actually robbing somebody else of the pleasure of feeling like they have a purpose to help you. And so feeling stuck, I feel like, is a reminder that we need each other.
Yeah.
And somebody you might need to grab someone else's hand so that they can pull you out from where you're at and you can move forward.
I love it. All right, Sarit.
I like it. It's different from
He
mine.
loves it.
Said the same
You
thing.
just like it.
Oh.
I'm just kidding.
So for me, stuck means two things. And there is one thing that defines the difference between one and the other. So first thing is stuck means that you're in a transition. You have to hit the sticky spot before you go up, always. Right. And it's what you do with that breakdown that determines like whether you're going to propel yourself or
you get to relive it
or stay there. Or stuck means not willing to take the action that will get you through this transitional period. And I'll tell you, like, so many people, like in weight loss, for example, I think you guys need to hear it because so many people fear plateaus. Plateaus are just like a breaking point, right?
What
And
is a
we
plateau?
actually had a conversation about it a couple of weeks ago.
Plateau is a rest stop.
Yeah, it's totally fine. It's about what we do there that is going to define whether we're going to take ourselves to the next level. Most people are just impatient. And especially if they start in their journey and, you know, it's like, let's say somebody's got like quite a bit of weight to lose. Like it is going to be a lot easier at first to, you know, like drop 2, 3, 4 pounds per week, but then it's going to start slowing down. That doesn't mean that you're not doing things right. It's almost like, you know, scaling a business. It's the same. To go from like 100K to 500K is so much easier than from 500K to 5 mil. Right. So it's like the higher you want to achieve, the tougher the breaking points are going to be. And, you know, like it's about the skill set and the character that you need to develop to break through that ceiling.
The skill set and the character that you need to develop.
And I believe that breaking through that ceiling is a choice. And it's also a level of commitment because it takes a lot of courage. I'll tell you, we're actually in that moment from like a business standpoint right now, where it's like we hit our ceiling from a strategic standpoint and we're about to test out something new. And we're ripping the floor apart and it feels like such a mind fuck. Right. But again, it's like, how committed are you? Like, are you committed to these people? Are you committed because our goal is to double our impact from this year to last year.
Yeah.
And what we did to get us to where we are now is not going to be the same thing that will help us to double our impact.
It's like when you first start losing weight, if you're 250 pounds, you can just, instead of eating fast food 5 times a week, you can eat it 3 times a week and you're still going to make progress.
Yeah.
You don't have to cut it out all the way. However, as you start to lose weight, you're going to have to modify it again. You can't just, what you did to get you where you are is not the same thing that you need to do to get you to the next place. So.
Well, before I ask my final question, I'm curious, where can everybody find out more about you and this amazing program, everything you guys are doing?
You can always go to the website, emunahstrength.com. There's a lot of stuff on there. You can look us up anywhere from Erin and Sarit, Emunah Strength, and we will pop up. Our YouTube channel, I would say, is one of the places if you really want to just absorb. You can literally learn everything that you need to know to lose weight sustainably and to just feel better about yourself if you go watch our YouTube videos. But, you know, I would say anytime we have a challenge, like anytime you can put in your email address somewhere, I don't say this because I care about one email address. That doesn't make a difference for me, but it will make a difference for you because if you get our emails and you open them everything we put into anywhere will change your life.
Mhm.
So go to one of our
intentional.
go to one of our social media, click on the link, get a free, we've got free 14-day trial to our Fitscription. We've got free 7-day body shred challenge you can do. There's a bunch of stuff. And then, open the emails because they're all intentional for how can we help you overcome all of these things that we've been talking about. So that's what I think.
Love it. Love it. All right. 60-second answers for this one.
Oh gosh.
Ready?
But you get to come again too.
Yeah, we're going to get the timer up. All right, here he goes. What is unstoppable?
I can do anything. I feel pressure because I got 60 seconds. Okay. So unstoppable means nobody has power over what I choose I'm able to do.
Mm.
And when I'm committed, it's going to happen because it's the character that I've developed that if you say you want to go hang a building off the side of a mountain, crazier things have been done. And so it's the audacity and the courage to believe whatever I can imagine, I can do.
Mm.
And if I want it bad enough, I will. 45 seconds. Boom.
Boom. All right, Sarit.
Oof.
Ready?
I'm just gonna speak on my thoughts.
Okay, go.
Okay, an unstoppable person is the type of person who is willing to plan A only. Literally just executes life as a mission. Okay, not as a project, but as a mission. And it's a matter of do or die. So regardless of how hard things get, regardless of what the weather looks like, regardless of what the internal conditions are, that person is not going to stop until they fulfill the mission. And that person is to be trusted. So that's a great leader right there.
Yeah, man.
37.
Yeah, that's right.
So good.
Everybody, you guys can see why I love them so much. You make sure you check them out for sure. And we'll see you again on the next episode of Stuck to Unstoppable. Peace.
I hope you liked that video. And if you did, make sure you check out this next video right here.
The number one strategic way to go from stuck to unstuck is to not ask why questions. Don't start with why. Start with what are 3 choices available to me right now? People, places, thoughts, things I can do. And then once you get momentum, then we can figure out why and what and who and what happened to you that caused this to happen. But do not start with why.